Good morning, everyone. I want to start by telling you a story. It's a story about a project I worked on years ago, one that I poured my heart into. I worked late into the nights, revising, rethinking, and trying to get it just right. And when I finally finished, I was terrified to share it. Not because it wasn't done, but because it wasn't perfect. Let's dig deeper into what perfectionism really is, because understanding it is the first step to loosening its grip. Perfectionism is not the same as striving for excellence. One of the biggest misconceptions about perfectionism is that it's about having high standards or working hard. It's not. Striving for excellence is healthy. It's motivated by a desire to grow, to improve, to challenge yourself in meaningful ways. Perfectionism, on the other hand, is motivated by fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. Excellence says, I'll give this my best effort and learn from the outcome. Perfectionism says, if this isn't flawless, I'm a failure. Excellence allows room for growth, while perfectionism leaves no space for mistakes, creativity, or even joy. The illusion of control. Perfectionism often masquerades as control. It makes us believe that if we just plan enough, prepare enough, or work hard enough, we can control the outcome. We think if I can make this perfect, no one can criticize me. No one can reject me. I'll be safe. But the truth is, perfectionism doesn't protect us, it isolates us. It keeps us from connecting with others because we're too busy trying to curate a flawless image. It keeps us from trying new things because we fear falling short. And it keeps us from truly living because we're stuck in a cycle of not enough. Perfectionism is exhausting. Think about the emotional and physical toll of perfectionism. It's like running on a treadmill that never stops. You're constantly revising, rethinking, and reworking, not because you want to, but because you feel you have to. Here's the kicker: no matter how much effort you put in, it's never enough. Perfectionism convinces you that there's always something more to do, always a flaw to fix. And even when you achieve something, you don't feel the joy of accomplishment. You feel relief that you avoided failure. Perfectionism as a mask. At its core, perfectionism is a mask. It's the armor we wear to hide our insecurities and vulnerabilities. We think if I can appear perfect, then no one will see my flaws, my fears, or my doubts. But here's the paradox: the more we strive for perfection, the less authentic we become. Perfectionism robs us of connection. People don't relate to perfection, they relate to vulnerability. They're drawn to honesty, imperfection, and humanity. The cost of perfectionism. The cost of perfectionism is high. It can impact every area of your life. In work, you might avoid opportunities because you're afraid you're not ready, or you might overwork yourself, chasing an impossible standard. In relationships, perfectionism can make you put up walls, afraid to show your true self to others. In creativity, it's the death of innovation. Perfectionism tells you don't create unless it's guaranteed to be great. In mental health, the constant pressure can lead to anxiety, burnout, and even depression. Perfectionism is a moving target. Here's the harsh reality: perfectionism doesn't have a finish line. The goalpost is always moving. You might think, if I can just get this project perfect, I'll feel good about myself. But as soon as you finish, the critical voice says you could have done better. Or what's next? This constant striving leaves us perpetually dissatisfied, chasing an ideal that doesn't exist. How do we recognize perfectionism? Perfectionism can show up in subtle ways, so it's important to recognize its signs. Procrastination: you delay starting a task because you're afraid it won't turn out perfectly. Overworking: you spend excessive time on something that's already good enough. Avoidance: you avoid challenges or risks to protect yourself from failure. Self-criticism: you're excessively harsh on yourself when things don't go as planned. When you notice these patterns, pause and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What's the worst that could happen if this isn't perfect? Shift from perfectionism to authenticity. The antidote to perfectionism is authenticity. It's about letting go of the need to be flawless and embracing who you are, flaws, mistakes, and all. Here's what's important to remember. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love and belonging. The people who matter most in your life don't love you because you're perfect. They love you because you're real. Your value isn't tied to what you achieve. It's tied to who you are. Perfectionism tells us that we have to earn our worth. But the truth is, we're already enough. Shame is one of the most powerful and deeply ingrained emotions we experience as human beings. It has the ability to shape how we see ourselves, how we relate to others, and how we navigate the world. Let's break it down and explore its impact, how it manifests, and what we can do to break free from its grip. What is shame? Shame is the deeply painful feeling that there's something inherently wrong with us, that we're unworthy of love, acceptance, or belonging. While guilt says, I made a mistake, shame whispers, I am a mistake. This distinction is critical because guilt can be constructive. It helps us recognize when our actions have hurt someone or violated our values, giving us the motivation to make amends. Shame, however, is destructive. It attacks the core of who we are and leaves us feeling broken or inadequate. How shame shapes our lives. Shame is insidious. It doesn't announce itself with flashing lights. It hides in the shadows of our thoughts and behaviors. Let's explore how it takes hold. Internal criticism. Shame often sounds like an internal critic, relentlessly pointing out our flaws. It tells us we're not smart enough, talented enough, or attractive enough. And no matter what we achieve, it convinces us it's not enough. Self-sabotage. Shame can make us feel so unworthy that we unconsciously sabotage opportunities. For example, we might avoid pursuing a dream or building a relationship because we feel we don't deserve success or love. Isolation. Shame thrives in secrecy. When we feel ashamed, our instinct is to hide. We withdraw from others, fearing judgment or rejection. Ironically, this isolation only deepens our shame because we lose the connection we desperately need. Perfectionism. Shame and perfectionism are close cousins. Perfectionism is often a response to shame, a desperate attempt to avoid criticism or rejection by being flawless. But since perfection is unattainable, it only perpetuates the cycle of shame. The origins of shame. Where does shame come from? It often starts in childhood, rooted in experiences where we felt judged, rejected, or unworthy. Maybe it was a critical parent, a teacher who made us feel small, or peers who ridiculed us. Over time, these experiences become internalized, shaping our self-concept. But shame isn't limited to our personal histories, it's also reinforced by societal pressures. Think about how culture defines success, beauty, or worthiness. These external messages create impossible standards that fuel shame when we inevitably fall short. Like cost of shame. Shame takes a toll on every aspect of our lives. Mental health. Shame is a major contributor to anxiety, depression, and feelings of unworthiness. It keeps us trapped in negative thought patterns, eroding our sense of self. Relationships. When we carry shame, it's hard to show up authentically in relationships. We fear being found out or rejected, so we hide parts of ourselves or push others away. Creativity and growth. Shame stifles creativity because it fears failure. It tells us, don't even try, you'll just embarrass yourself as a result. We miss opportunities to grow and explore our potential. Connection. Shame is the ultimate disconnector. It convinces us we're alone in our struggles, cutting us off from the empathy and understanding that could heal us. How shame persists. Shame thrives in silence and secrecy. The less we talk about it, the more power it holds. Think of shame as a weed, it grows best in the dark. But when we shine a light on it, it begins to wither. It also thrives on distorted thinking. Shame convinces us that our flaws are unique, that everyone else has it all together while we're somehow deficient. This couldn't be further from the truth. Breaking free from shame. So, how do we combat shame and reclaim our sense of worth? Name it. The first step is recognizing when you're feeling shame. Pay attention to your inner dialogue and physical reactions. Does your chest tighten? Does your mind replay a mistake? Naming shame is powerful because it interrupts its grip. Practice self-compassion. Instead of judging yourself harshly, treat yourself with kindness. Ask, what would I say to a friend in this situation? Then say that to yourself. Challenge the narrative. Shame often tells us lies about who we are. Question these beliefs. Are they based on facts or are they distortions? Replace negative self-talk with affirming truths about your worth. Share your story. Shame cannot survive being spoken. Find someone you trust, a friend, therapist, or support group, and share what you're feeling. When someone responds with empathy, it breaks the cycle of shame. You focus on connection. Shame isolates, but connection heals. Surround yourself with people who see your worth and accept you as you are. Redefine success. Let go of societal expectations and define success on your terms. Focus on growth, authenticity, and living in alignment with your values. The light at the end of shame. Here's the truth: everyone experiences shame. It's a universal emotion, but it doesn't have to define us. When we confront shame with courage, compassion, and connection, it loses its power. The opposite of shame is belonging. And the key to belonging is embracing your imperfections and recognizing that you are worthy, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Shame may have a voice, but it doesn't have the final word. The more we speak out against it, the quieter it becomes. Making room for joy, connection, and freedom. Overcoming perfectionism and shame is not about snapping your fingers and expecting them to vanish. It's about building a toolkit of strategies to face these emotions, reframe them, and create healthier habits. Here's how we can navigate this process step by step. 1. Embrace imperfection. This might sound counterintuitive, but the first step to overcoming perfectionism is to stop aiming for perfection. Practice imperfection. Start small. Let yourself send an email without proofreading it 5 times. Wear mismatched socks. These mistakes are reminders that the world won't fall apart if everything isn't flawless. Adopt a growth mindset. Replace "I failed" with "what did I learn?" Mistakes are opportunities to grow, not proof of inadequacy. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Focus on what you've accomplished. Even if it's not perfect, remember, progress is more valuable than an unattainable ideal. Example, think of the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold. The flaws aren't hidden, they're celebrated as part of the object's history. 2. Reframe failure. For perfectionists, failure feels like a catastrophe. But failure isn't the end, it's part of the journey. Redefine success. Ask yourself, what does success mean to me? If your definition revolves around perfection, rework it to include effort, growth, and resilience. Practice failing. Try something new that you're not good at: drawing, dancing, or public speaking. When you let yourself fail, you'll realize it's not as scary as it seems. Learn from every experience. Write down one thing you learned from every setback. Over time, you'll see failure not as a stop sign, but as a stepping stone. Example, Thomas Edison reportedly said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." 3. Practice self-compassion. Self-compassion is the antidote to shame. It allows us to be kind to ourselves when we fall short. Speak kindly to yourself. Notice your inner critic and counter it with a compassionate voice. Instead of "I'm so stupid, try, I made a mistake," and that's okay. Recognize shared humanity. Remember, you're not alone. Everyone makes mistakes, struggles, and feels inadequate at times. Forgive yourself, let go of past mistakes. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior. It means releasing yourself from the burden of guilt and shame. Example, think about how you'd comfort a friend who's struggling. Apply the same care to yourself. 4, build connection. Shame and perfectionism isolate us, but connection brings healing. Share your struggles, talk about your feelings with someone who's earned your trust. Vulnerability creates deeper, more authentic relationships. Surround yourself with empathy, spend time with people who accept you as you are, not as you should be. Join a community, whether it's a support group, hobby club, or online forum. Find spaces where you can connect with others who share your experiences. Example, think of the relief you feel when someone says, "Me too, I've been there." That moment of connection dissolves shame's power. 5, challenge perfectionistic thinking. Perfectionism is rooted in unrealistic beliefs about ourselves and the world. To overcome it, we need to confront these thoughts. Identify your standards. Ask yourself, are my expectations reasonable? Would I hold others to the same standards? Reframe negative thoughts. Replace, "I have to do this perfectly," with "doing my best is enough." Focus on the big picture. Ask, will this matter in a week? A month? A year? Most of the time, the answer is no. Example, a messy house might feel embarrassing in the moment, but it doesn't define your worth as a person. 6, take action despite fear. Perfectionism often paralyzes us with fear of failure, criticism, or rejection. The only way to overcome fear is to act in spite of it. Start before you're ready. Perfectionists often wait until everything is just right to begin. Take the leap and adjust as you go. Aim for good enough. Set a goal to finish something at 80% instead of 100%. You'll often find that 80% is more than sufficient. Detach from outcomes. Focus on the process, not the result. Let go of the need for external validation. Example, if you're afraid to share your writing, post a small piece online. The act of sharing is a victory, regardless of how it's received. 7, seek professional support. Sometimes overcoming perfectionism and shame requires outside help. Therapy, a trained therapist can help you explore the roots of your perfectionism and shame and develop healthier coping strategies. Coaching, a life coach or mentor can help you set realistic goals and hold you accountable for progress. Support groups, joining a group of people who share similar struggles, can provide validation and encouragement. Example, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is particularly effective for addressing perfectionistic thinking and shame. 8, practice gratitude and joy. Perfectionism and shame often blind us to the good in our lives. Cultivating gratitude and joy helps shift our focus. Gratitude journaling, write down 3 things you're grateful for each day, no matter how small. Celebrate small wins, acknowledge your efforts, not just your outcomes. Find joy in the ordinary. Take time to savor simple pleasures, a good cup of coffee, a walk in nature, or laughter with a friend. Example, gratitude turns our attention from what's lacking to what's abundant, helping us break free from the cycle of not enough. The long-term journey. Overcoming perfectionism and shame isn't a one-time fix, it's a lifelong journey. There will be setbacks, but every small step you take is progress. With practice, patience, and persistence, you can replace perfectionism with authenticity and shame with self-acceptance. Remember, you don't have to have it all together to start. You just have to start. And that's enough. Would you like additional examples, exercises, or a closing story to tie this section together? As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to leave you with this: overcoming perfectionism and shame is not about being fearless or flawless, it's about being courageous. Courage doesn't mean you won't feel vulnerable, it means you choose to show up anyway. You're not here to be perfect, you're here to be real. You're here to embrace the messy, beautiful, and imperfect process of being human. Remember, the most meaningful parts of life, connection, creativity, growth, don't come from a place of perfection. They come from authenticity. They come when we dare to say, I am enough as I am. So I invite you to take that first step. Maybe it's sharing your story with someone you trust. Maybe it's letting go of the need to prove yourself. Or maybe it's simply looking in the mirror tonight and saying, I am worthy not because of what I do, but because of who I do, but because of who I am. The journey won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because on the other side of perfectionism and shame lies freedom, the freedom to live boldly, to connect deeply, and to love wholeheartedly. Thank you.